Everyone, we are here with director Rob Savage. He is the guy behind the new movie, The Boogeyman. And that is going to be coming out Blu-ray and DVD October 10th. Rob, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. So can you tell me about The Boogeyman? What's it all about?
So, the Boogeyman follows the Harper family who have just lost their mother. They're going through kind of just getting back into the flow of life after this great tragedy. The father's a therapist, and suddenly one day this very weird man turns up at his practice, spinning this story about a strange creature that he believes has killed all of his kids. And after an altercation with this man, the family start to believe that this creature has set up residence in their house as well and starts coming after them one by one.
Fascinating. And so kind of passing on a monstrous curse to them, perhaps. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly. There's a ring vibe to it.
Excellent. So how did you get involved with this project?
So I made this movie called Host that came out in 2020 that all set on Zoom just like this. And uh, after the success of that movie ended up doing pretty well. I was suddenly getting a lot of offers, a lot of scripts being sent my way, and I got sent the script for the Boogeyman, which was that draft was written by Beck Woods, who wrote A Quiet Place, which is a movie that I loved, and uh, I read it, and it's very different from the movie we ended up making. We made a lot of changes, and I worked on developing it, but there was a great kind of kernel of an idea there, and they'd taken this story, which I remembered really affecting me when I read it as a kid, and found a way to kind of extrapolate that out into a feature. Uh, I also was just drawn to the idea of making a movie called The Boogeyman about this character, about the character that's basically the first thing that we're afraid of in the dark as children. It felt
Hmm.
like there's been a lot of Boogeyman movies, there hasn't been a definitive one, and I wanted to try and make something that felt classy and scary and definitive.
Yeah, it has a very elegant look to it. There's a this is based on a Stephen King short.
Yes.
And did you say that you had read that as a kid?
Yeah, I read it as a kid. I kind of started off with King's short stories because I had a very short attention span as a kid. So I'd read a lot of the short stories, and
Yeah, same.
I remembered it. Yeah, it was one of the ones that really messed me up as a kid. Um, and I think there was a lot of stuff I didn't understand. There was a lot of kind of like very real world horror to about this man who had lost his children, and the Lester Billings in the short story is a very vile character who is jolting in his own way. But it stuck with me, and I remembered the feeling that those short stories gave me as a kid, and I kind of wanted to just try and elicit that same response from an audience. Wanted to make them feel like a terrified kid that's woken in the middle of the night and was too afraid to get out of bed or call for their parents. That kind of childhood fear that's so powerful. I felt like if we could evoke that in a movie, that'd be something special.
Did you happen to catch Skinamarink?
I did. That there was a lot of really creepy stuff in that movie.
Yeah. That one to me captured what you were mentioning, uh, that frightening, desperation. But obviously, the boogeyman seems to move at a lot faster pace. Uh, uh, Now, what's interesting to me is you talked about how you developed this story from from an idea or a story from Stephen King.
Yeah.
Like, what is it how do you go through the material? How do you develop it? What are what are you looking for when you're taking ideas in and out and kind of weeding things and adding?
Yeah.
What are you after?
I think one thing that I was really keen on is that we were kind of exploring the same territory as King was, that he was, that he had fascinations that were going on in that story that I wanted to explore further in this movie. Ideas of grief and communication, and you know, and he's also kind of like talking a lot about kind of class and prejudice, and there's an anti-intellectual thing going on in the Lester Billings character that's like interesting, that we're not touching on, that didn't feel like our movie, but it felt like the core of the idea. um we wanted to make sure we were kind of exploring the same ground as King, and so we would always go back to the short story. And also, you know, the other thing is, me and Mark Heyman, who wrote this movie, we're big Stephen King fans. We love the books, we love the adaptations. We kind of know his world and his style and his preoccupations. And so we were always thinking, well, even though we're inventing a lot of stuff and a lot of stuff doesn't come from the short story, we want to feel like it's still taking place in a Stephen King universe, and that this is still something that's going to sit on your shelf right next to all the best Stephen King adaptations.
Odd question, but since Disney owns 20th Century
Yeah.
Studios, does this make the Boogeyman a Disney villain?
Boogeyman is a Disney movie, which is kind of perfect in a way, because you know the Boogeyman is one of those characters that you enters your life at the same time as Mickey Mouse and all of these other, you know, more wholesome characters. The Boogeyman is the first sense of there being evil out in the world you get as a kid. So it's kind of perfect in a way that it's under a Disney banner.
Well, who would win in a fight, Ursula or the Boogeyman? That's just a question.
I think the Boogeyman, because Boogeyman can fight on land or at sea, and probably in space as well. I'm hoping for a sequel where we get to take the Boogeyman to space.
I'm in. I am so in.
Yeah,
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
cool.
It's also nice shirt, nicely.
Thank you.
Again, everybody, the Boogeyman comes out Blu-ray and DVD October 10th. So, Rob, thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
look forward to talking to you again.